Hello and welcome. Today, I want to tell you the story of one of the most powerful and unforgettable men in history. His name was Qin Shi Huang. Most people remember him for one thing. He was the first emperor to unify China. But if that is all you know about him, then you have only seen the ending, not the journey. Because the most interesting part of his life was not just that he won, it was how he won. He did not begin life in safety. He did not grow up in peace. He did not inherit a world that was simple, kind, or stable. He began in danger, and that is what makes his story still powerful today. Because even now, many people feel they are starting from the wrong place. They think their background is too weak, their situation is too difficult, their support is too small. Their chances are too few. Qin Shi Huang's life tells us something very different. A hard beginning does not have to become a small ending. Let's begin. Long before he became emperor, he was a boy named Qin Shi Huang. He was born during the Warring States period, one of the most dangerous and chaotic times in ancient China. The land was divided into rival states. Kings did not trust one another. War could begin at any moment. Life was uncertain, and power changed hands through force, strategy, and survival. Qin Shi Huang was born in the state of Zhao, not in comfort but in tension. His father, a prince of Qin, had once been sent there as a political hostage. That meant the family lived under pressure. They were important but not secure, visible but not protected. Imagine growing up in a place where one wrong turn in politics could destroy your future. That was the world he entered. And this is the first lesson from his life. You do not choose your starting point. But you do choose what kind of person that starting point creates. Many people let a difficult beginning become their excuse. Qin Shi Huang let it become his training. As a child, he saw uncertainty early. He learned that safety is fragile. He learned that the world can change very quickly. He learned that if you want to survive in a hard world, you must become mentally strong before you become publicly powerful. Later, he returned to Qin, and then at just 13 years old, he became king. Now think about that, 13. At an age when many boys are still learning how to control themselves, he was sitting on a throne. But here is something important. A title is not the same as real power. Yes, he became king. But no, he did not fully control the state. At first, older and more experienced people controlled much of the government around him. There were powerful ministers. There were court factions. There were people who spoke in his name, acted near him, and thought they could guide him or even use him. This is something many people still experience today. You may have the position, but not the control. You may have the role, but not the influence. You may look important from the outside, while inside you know others are still deciding everything. So what did Qin Shi Huang do? He did not panic. He did not waste his energy trying to prove too much too early. He watched, he listened, he learned. This is one of the most important reasons he later succeeded. He understood timing. Some people lose because they move too early. Others lose because they move too late. The rarest people are those who know when to wait and when to strike. Qin Shi Huang was one of those people. As he grew older, the truth became clearer. If he wanted to be a real ruler, he would one day have to break free from the people who stood between him and power. And that day came. One of the greatest dangers around him was a man named Lao Ai. Lao Ai had risen through the inner court and gained frightening influence. He was connected to the Queen Dowager and built his own network of power. At one point, he even launched a rebellion. This was not a small palace argument. This was a direct threat. And now Ying Zheng had to show the world who he really was. This is where his story changes. Until then, he had been the young king many people thought they could manage. After this, he became someone people feared to challenge. He moved decisively. The rebellion was crushed. Lao Ai was removed. The threat was destroyed. This was a turning point. Because successful people are not only patient, they are also decisive when the moment comes. There is a lesson here for modern life. You cannot solve every problem by waiting. You cannot smile your way out of every danger. There comes a time when delay becomes weakness. When the core threat appears, you must act, not emotionally, not wildly, but clearly and firmly. Ying Zheng understood that, and after dealing with Lao Ai, he moved further. Another great figure in his early life was Lu Buwei, the powerful statesman who had helped shape the political path that brought Ying Zheng's family back to power. Lu Buwei had once been useful, very useful, but here is another hard truth of success. The people who help you rise are not always the people who should remain above you forever. At some point, a person must step out of dependence and into command. Ying Zheng understood this too. He gradually removed Lu Buwei's influence from the center of rule. This was not only political. It was personal growth. It was the moment when a boy stopped being managed and became the one managing others. And many people today need that lesson. A mentor can help you. A teacher can guide you. A powerful supporter can open doors for you. But if you stay under someone else forever, you never become fully yourself. One day, you must stand on your own judgment. Now Ying Zheng was no longer simply surviving the court. He was beginning to shape the future of Qin. But one of the reasons he became truly great was this. He did not try to build everything alone. He knew how to use talent. One famous example was Li Si. At one point, there was pressure in Qin to send away many outsiders from other states. People were suspicious of foreign-born officials and advisors. It would have been easy to listen to fear, close the door, and trust only insiders. But Ying Zheng did something smarter. He listened to Li Si, who argued that a ruler should not reject useful talent simply because it comes from somewhere else. This mattered deeply, because great leaders do not only ask, "Is this person from my group?" They ask, "Can this person help build something greater?" That is a lesson that still matters in business, leadership, and life. If your mind is too small, your success will also stay small. If you only trust people who look like you, sound like you, or come from your circle, you may feel safe. But you will not build anything great. Ying Zheng wanted results more than comfort. And that is why he kept strong talent close to him. Then came the mission that would define his life. The 6 rival states still stood: Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, Wei. The land was still divided. War still threatened the future. Stability was still impossible. Many rulers fight battles. Ying Zheng thought bigger than that. He did not want one victory. He wanted an entirely new order. He wanted unification. This is where people often misunderstand success. They think great achievements are born from loud passion and big speeches. But in reality, the biggest success usually comes from long planning, deep discipline, and consistent execution. The unification of the 6 states was not one emotional charge. It was a strategic project. Step by step, Qin moved forward. Some states fell quickly, others required more work. Some enemies were weak, others were dangerous and proud. Ying Zheng used generals, ministers, diplomacy, timing, and force. He did not only fight with swords. He fought with planning, and that is why he won. This is another lesson modern people need. If your dream is big, your strategy must be bigger. You cannot build a great life by relying only on mood. You cannot create something lasting through random effort. Whether you want to build a career, improve your English, start a business, or change your body and mind, one truth remains the same. A big result is usually the outcome of many disciplined steps. Ying Zheng understood that better than most people in history. But even the strongest leaders face moments when everything can end in seconds. One of the most famous moments in his life came when an assassin named Qin Shi came close enough to kill him. This is one of the great dramatic scenes in Chinese history. Qin Shi approached under the excuse of diplomacy, carrying gifts and a hidden weapon. For a brief moment, the future of Qin stood in one room, on the edge of a blade. If Qin Shi had succeeded, history might have changed completely. Now imagine that pressure. 1 second of weakness, 1 moment of panic, 1 small mistake, everything could have ended there. But Ying Zheng survived. The details have been told in different ways over the centuries, but the meaning is clear. In the most dangerous moment, he did not die, he escaped. He fought back, he lived. This is why strong people are not simply people who never feel fear. Strong people are those who can still act while fear is present. That matters today, too. Anyone can speak confidently in a safe room. Anyone can look brave when nothing is at risk. But true character appears in moments of pressure, when the meeting turns against you, when the interview gets hard. When your plan is collapsing, when the risk is real, can you still think? Can you still move? Can you still respond? Ying Zheng could. And eventually, state after state fell. Han Zhao Wei Chu Yan Qi. At last, the wars of division were brought to an end under Qin rule, and that was when Ying Zheng took a new title. He did not call himself only king. He called himself Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of Qin. This was not a small personal upgrade. It was the announcement of a new political age. He was not saying, "I won a war." He was saying, "The old fragmented world is over. A new order begins now." That kind of thinking is rare, and it reveals another secret of his success. He was not satisfied with winning inside the old system. He wanted to redesign the system itself. This is exactly why his story still feels modern. Many people want to do well inside an existing structure. Very few people ask the deeper question, what if the structure itself needs to be changed? After unification, Qin Shi Huang did something even more important than conquest. He built systems. And this may be the most useful lesson from his life for modern people, because winning once is impressive. Building something that keeps working is much harder. He standardized writing so people across different regions could communicate more easily. He standardized weights and measures so trade and administration could become more efficient. He standardized axle widths for carts and improved roads, making transport and connections stronger across the empire. These changes may sound less dramatic than war, but in many ways they were more powerful. Because this is what real builders understand. Chaos wastes energy. Systems multiply energy. A person without systems is always starting over. A person with systems can scale results. That is true for empires, and it is true for modern life. If your room is always disorganized, you lose time. If your work has no structure, you lose clarity. If your learning has no plan, you lose momentum. Qin Shi Huang did not only conquer land, he reduced disorder. That is one major reason he changed history. But now we must also tell the harder side of the story, because success at that level has a price. And Qin Shi Huang paid it. The same man who built order could also be harsh. The same man who unified the land ruled with heavy force. He demanded control. He feared disorder. He punished resistance. That made him powerful. It also made him feared. And this is where the story becomes more human and more serious. Because one of the greatest dangers in success is this. When control works, you begin to want more of it. When power protects you, you begin to trust power too much. When you defeat enough enemies, you begin to fear losing what you built. Late in life, Qin Shi Huang became obsessed with something no ruler has ever truly defeated: death. He searched for immortality. He sent people to look for magical solutions. He wanted to escape the final limit that no emperor, no warrior, and no genius can escape forever. This is the warning hidden inside his story. He could defeat rival states. He could survive court danger. He could escape assassins. He could command armies and shape an empire, but he could not defeat time. No one can, and maybe this is the final lesson his life offers us. Ambition is powerful. Discipline is powerful. Strategy is powerful. System building is powerful. But if success turns into obsession, then even the strongest person can lose peace. Qin Shi Huang died during a journey far from the capital. He left behind one of the most powerful states the world had seen, and one of the most debated legacies in history. Some remember him as a ruthless ruler. Some remember him as a visionary builder. Some see him as both, and perhaps that is the only honest way to see him. He was not simple. He was not soft. He was not ordinary. He was not safe, but he was extraordinary. He was a boy born into uncertainty, who refused to remain weak. A young king surrounded by stronger figures who learned to wait. A ruler who knew when to strike. A leader who used talent. A strategist who thought long-term. A builder who understood systems. And finally, a human being who reminds us that even the greatest success cannot remove every fear. So what can we learn from Qin Shi Huang today? We can learn resilience. Your difficult beginning is not your final identity. We can learn patience. Not every season is for showing power. Some are for preparing it. We can learn courage. When the real crisis comes, you must be able to act. We can learn independence. The people who help you rise cannot always define your future. We can learn how to use talent. You do not build great things by shutting out capable people. We can learn long-term thinking. Big dreams require structure, discipline, and time. We can learn systems. If you want a better life, do not only work harder, build better order. And finally, we can learn balance. Because success means little if fear, obsession, and control consume the person who achieves it. That is why Qin Shi Huang's story still matters. It is not only the story of the first emperor. It is the story of a person who rose from instability, mastered power, changed history, and still leaves us with one unforgettable question. How far can discipline, strategy, and ambition take a human being? And what must that human being guard against on the way? This was the story of Qin Shi Huang, not just a conqueror, not just an emperor, but a man who refused to stay small in a world built on danger. And that is why history still remembers him. Thanks for listening. See you in the next story.